Hello, VN King here again. Welcome to another segment of Contagious Courage. As you can see, we're in a different setting, but Contagious Courage is everywhere. And today I'm so excited to introduce you to my next guest, Shirley Thiessen. Did I say your name right?
Theissen.
Theissen, thank you so much. Shirley and I met in not even thinking that we were going to be best buds, I feel. But just the way that God connected us and got to hear her story was something that is very powerful, and I just wanted to share it with you. Shirley, you work with the Mustard Seed.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about what you do at the Mustard Seed.
Yeah, well, I'm the major guest manager at the Mustard Seed in Calgary. And I love my work because I realize that each of the people that we serve, they're like me, they have experienced a significant loss. And I know that my story would be so different if I didn't have a community that was supportive around me. And many of our guests don't have that. And I want to lean in and provide that support for them. Wonderful. In my role.
And you've allowed God to even use those opportunities for you to speak light into other people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. So Shirley, you say that you have 3 kids. Your daughter Chantel, she lives in Calgary. Your daughter-in-law or daughter-in-love, and you'll explain that later. Elise, she lives in Denver, Colorado. And your son, who you say lives in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're going to talk about today. When I met Shirley, she told me that she went from celebrating her son's wedding to planning his funeral in 12 days.
Yes.
And I just want people to hear what you've been through, what has God done through all this. But tell me, take us back. Tell me about who Jordan was. What was happening before all this happened? Like, talk to us about this journey.
Well, the year 2012 was just looked like it was going to be a stellar year of celebrations. Our son was finishing up his last semester of university. He's with us over Christmas break, which goes into January, and he says, Mom, Dad, Chantel, can you help me find the perfect engagement ring? So he was about to propose to his girlfriend Elise, and we had the job of helping him find a ring in his budget. Now, he was a self-educated expert on diamonds, and so we had so much fun for 10 days. All we did was hang out together and shop for rings and talk about the essentials of married life.
Yeah.
I'll never forget how much fun that was. So we were so delighted when Elise not only said yes to Jordan's proposal, but yes to the ring we had chosen. And then in April, Jordan and Elise graduated from university, and this was a huge celebration. They had worked so hard, and now the pressure was on. Now that they're educated, it was to find a career job. So in June, we were celebrating the fact that Jordan actually found a great job in Calgary, where we live, and he had been looking for work anywhere. And so we were delighted to know that they would be living in our city close by. And then in September, we celebrated Jordan's 23rd birthday. And unbeknownst to him, his dad and I were also celebrating the fact that our son was being successfully launched. We were so, we had spent so much time and energy and prayer and money into this kid, as parents do. And now he was paying his own bills, and he was off the payroll, and life was good. And then in October 6th, we celebrated their beautiful wedding. It was 50 family members and friends, just as the bridal couple had wanted. And we just couldn't be more excited. This couple had so much going for them and a promising future ahead. And then 12 days later, we get word that our son had died in a workplace accident. And we were in shock. Like, how can this be? We just barely opened the wedding presents.
Oh my goodness. So that day, where did you get the news? How, like, where were you when you got the news? What was happening? Like, tell me about that moment.
Well, my husband and I, Carey, we traditionally go to Palm Springs every October. And so we were off there, we were 4 days in. And I was gonna go shopping in the morning, and I wanted to be back in record time to get back to the pool where I wanted to relax. But going into the store, I had one item on my mind I was going to get, but immediately as walking into the store, I was distracted by a rack of summer dresses on clearance.
Yes.
And forgetting that I was in a rush, I went over to this rack, and there was a black dress right in the middle of the summer lightweight flowery dresses that clearly did not belong. So I went over, picked up the dress, and thought, man, if I ever needed a black dress, this would be the one I'd want. It had a soft, flexible fabric. It was really well sewn. I liked the design, but I didn't need a black dress, and so I put it back. And as I started to walk away, I heard the words, I want you to buy this black dress. You are going to a funeral.
Wow.
Well, my head just whipped around to see who said that.
Right. Wow.
There were people in the store, but there was no one within speaking range. And confused, I just started to walk away. And again, the words repeated. They were obvious. Before I knew it was happening, my feet were off to the change room, and I'm standing in front of this full-length mirror wearing the dress. It fits so well. It actually felt like a hug.
Oh.
And I'm like, what am I doing? I didn't come here to buy anything for myself.
You're going to get back to the pool.
Yes.
I don't need a black dress.
Exactly. And those words were repeated. I want you to buy this black dress. You are going to a funeral. I was like, I don't even know what this is about, but I'm just going to buy it, and hopefully this whole message thing will just stop. Now, I have felt God's nudges. I have heard his whispers, but nothing so obvious that I couldn't avoid as this message. And so I bought the dress, and a couple hours later, back at our condo, there was a California police officer yelling out my husband's name and ringing the doorbell. Is Carey Thiessen there? Is Carey Thiessen there? And my husband said, yes, come on in. What's this all about? He said, do you have a son living in Calgary, Alberta, Canada? Yes. Is his name Jordan Theissen? Yes. Well then, here, you need to call Calgary Police Services immediately. I don't know what this is about. Well, it took my husband quite a while to stop shaking, enough to be able to dial the number for Calgary Police. And when he was connected with Sergeant McNaughton, he got the news. And I was still actually trying to figure this out, but when he took hold of his head with one hand and cried out, not my son, not my son. Immediately, I knew that Jordan had died. And in that next moment, I thought, oh my goodness, that black dress, the one that I just bought, it was for my son's funeral. And it just took my breath away. And so in that moment, well, at first I was kind of weirded out by it, and I thought, oh my goodness, how kind of my Heavenly Father to provide for me something I didn't even know I needed. And in that moment, I felt like he was saying, I go ahead of you. I know you're in shock, but I'm already in your tomorrow. And I will be with you in this darkest shadow of grief.
Shirley, I read in your story, every time I read it, like, it brings me to tears, and I get goosebumps every time, because I see your pain, I see the things that you've been through, and I also see God covering you with so much grace and strength. And you're talking about this dress and how God provided that in the moment. Did you always see God's favor on you? Did you, like, was there a point that you got angry, like you lost your son? Like, God, like, what was there? Well, talk me through some of the emotions that you felt. Like, did you always have that? Like, okay, God provided.
No, I'm actually very sad to have to tell you that I did go through a crisis of faith, because when the shock of my grief started to lift, and I started to realize all that I had lost. I mean, Jordan was so excited for the future. We were so proud of him. We had a beautiful relationship. In fact, he had written a card to us just days before he died, where he said, you know, thank you so much, Mom and Dad, for the way that you really leaned into this marriage and you embraced Elise, and I'm so glad that we'll still be able to do family holidays together. And he wanted that connection to continue, and we just couldn't wait. But thinking, Lord, why? Like, why would you take him now? And seriously, our country desperately needs godly young adults. Jordan lived for Jesus, not perfectly, but of course earnestly. And like, why would you take him? He's got so much to offer. And so, yes, I went through a period where I was so angry at God. And that anger festered, and it became bitterness. And I realized that actually that became like toxic weeds in my heart. And the enemy, he doesn't fight fair.
He never does.
He was kind of making me believe that this loss, it was too deep to ever experience joy again. And it wasn't until some dear friends, they actually bought me a sign in a gift store in Canmore.
Okay.
They had already left the store, but they felt compelled to go back
Yes.
and buy it specifically for me. And this sign, I mean, I keep it in a prominent place in my house because God used this sign to kind of kickstart me into a new direction. And the sign says, be the kind of woman that when your feet hit the floor each morning, the devil says, oh crap, she's up.
I love that. I love that. Do you know there's people watching that are thinking, like, your son died. Like, his 22-year-old bride,
Yeah.
at least she was 22. And, like, yes, you've had your crisis of belief, but look at where you are now. And you say that, a quote that you said, I've been experiencing firsthand how God can recycle my pain for his good purposes. Speak into it.
Yes. Well, there's kind of a phrase that God gave me, and it was that God promises to recycle my pain for his good purpose as I participate. And I realize that God doesn't need me, but he invites me to leverage this grief for his glory. And so instead of being so self-absorbed with self-pity, which is so easy for me, I said, God, okay, I don't like this plan, I don't agree with your timing, but I realize that you are God and I am not. There's really precious little I am in control of, even though I'm a recovering control freak. And so I just started to pray, Lord, bring those opportunities to recycle this pain. And I will say yes in advance. But I did add a little addendum. But please remember how broken and fragile I am. Don't ask me to do anything so difficult. Well, I'm sure he must have chuckled because God often gives us more than we can handle.
Yes, he does.
Because it's only then that we are desperately dependent on him.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so, yes, almost immediately, he brought opportunities to share my story, to encourage others, and every time I would say, God, this is way over my head, above my punching weight. I can't believe you asked me to do this, but because I already said yes, I'm going to walk through this door, but you better show up big because I am desperately dependent on you.
those doors you're talking about, God was opening doors now for you to go into the police force, right?
Yes.
How did that happen?
Well, the sergeant who was given us the task of telling us that our son had died from Calgary, of course, because we're in Palm Springs, he had to tell us by phone, and that is the worst way to be able to have to bring that news. And he was definitely very disappointed that that's the way it went.
Yes.
But because of that relationship that actually we had with him later and another sergeant, I was invited by the chaplain, a former chaplain of the CPS, to come and share with the whole community in their auditorium of best practices, what it's like to be on the other side of the door. And just give officers an idea of how to deliver a death notification with empathy and compassion. And when this opportunity came, I said to God, like, this is not my people. And besides, you know, I'm kind of intimidated by uniformed police officers after the gent that came to our condo. And but then again, he just reminds me, you did say yes. And so I went, and honestly, God made me bold in a way I have never been bold. As a result of that, I was then invited to come and share in the death notification course that had just recently started. And so I'm delighted that God is enabling me to give these officers some tools that they will be able to give to a family receiving the most devastating news they will ever hear. And it's also for the sake of the officers, because I can't imagine how difficult their job is in that moment.
Here you are saying the words like, I cannot imagine how difficult it is for them. And then there are people out there thinking, I can't imagine how difficult it was. I can't imagine how difficult it was to get that news. But you gotta understand something, like what Peter said when he healed people, like the disciples, they were going around healing and doing all these things. Why are you looking at me as if I had the power to heal this man? Like, Shirley, you are courageous, you are strong, but it's your strength, your faith in Christ and God's strength in you, right? That's what I want people to understand. That we don't pretend to have it all together. We don't pretend that we're so strong, we're so great. The thing is, the greater the pain, the greater the glory that is given to God when we give Him our pain. Yes. And surely that is what you've done with your pain. You've allowed God to recycle that pain. And so if there's someone out there that is either going through some pain that they are thinking it's unbearable. God, how dare you? That entitlement that you've said, I read that you said, I prayed for protection for my children. So as a God-fearing woman and a faith-believing woman, my children, I believed in step of faith that my children are protected. And now what, right? But God. But God. Because you know what? God doesn't do these things to us. God doesn't do this. But do you know, He could have stopped it. Yeah. But there's so much evil and there's so much in this world that we don't understand. But you can be sure of our God that if we give Him the crap that comes our way, He will make something beautiful of it if we allow Him to do that.
Yes.
And that is what I see and feel from your heart. And I want you to know that I feel that, like, God is just smiling down. You know, well done, you know, like, thank you for allowing me to speak to your pain. And if there was somebody out there listening today that is experiencing loss, and it could be a loss of a loved one, it could be a loss of health, it could be a loss of a job or whatever it is, and like a child, heaven forbid, what would you say to someone who is experiencing that, who do not know how to cope, to move forward?
So when I thought about the phrase of God promises to recycle our pain for His good purpose as I participate, then how do I participate? And so God has shown me a couple of things, and it actually ends up being thankful trust, obedience, eternal perspective, and serving others. So it spells toes. And everybody has toes, and so it's like a kind of a reminder of this is the way we participate. And I could drill down, but basically the first one, thankful trust, is I realized that I had stopped thanking God for what I did have. I was in no mood to be thankful for. And I started a Thanksgiving journal, and I just kind of forced myself every day to write down one thing I could be thankful for. And as I did, God started to rewire my brain, and I realized I can trust Him. And praise is part of that thankful trust.
Yeah, it sure is, yeah.
And then obedience. Every time God brought me a way to participate with Him, realizing that I could say no, but then I'd be missing out. I'd be missing out on what His purpose was for my pain. And so I realized obedience was such a big part of participating with God. And then eternal perspective. It's so easy to fall into the habit of thinking this temporal life is all we have, and it's not. It's so short. And 1 Peter tells us so much about we have a great inheritance to look forward to. And I think we just dismiss that, and instead of being fixated on how that should inform how I live today, realizing that one day this sorrow is going to be completely gone and not even remembered. And I can't wait, honestly.
You and I both.
I can't wait.
Yes, I'm sure there's lots of people out there that are saying and thinking the same thing. When is this pain going to end? When is this suffering going to end? Why is there so much pain? Why?
Exactly.
Shirley, is there something else that's burning on your heart that you would like to share with us before we say goodbye?
The last letter in toes is S, serving others. And so one of the things that I have learned as a result of the grief companions that came around me was their critical role that they played in my life. And so I am so passionate about equipping others to come alongside their grieving friends.
Yes.
And do the LAP with them. LAP. Listen, acknowledge, and pray. And that's what my friends have done for me. And honestly, it has been a critical part of my ability to move in my grief journey with hope. I would be lost without them. And I really think that to know that even one grieving soul can breathe again and experience renewed hope because you were courageous to enter their grief journey with empathy and compassion. That is a meaningful purpose.
So don't underestimate that coming alongside.
Exactly. And you're bringing God's light into the darkness. So I encourage everyone to embrace that meaningful purpose as yours.
I'm so overwhelmed with God's presence in everything that we do, and to be thankful in and through that pain. You know what? That's what gets people's attention. That is what's contagious. Your courage is contagious. Your pain, when you speak truth, when you are joyful, and when you declare God's promises in and through your pain, that is contagious courage. That is what's contagious. And that is what separates us from the world. People that don't have hope.
Right.
We don't mourn people. We don't mourn loss like someone without hope. We know that we'll see them again.
Absolutely.
And that's what gives us so much more hope. So if someone wanted to reach out to you, Shirley, and connect with you, I'm going to give them the links to your contact information. If you have any questions, because you just started now to offer this education about how to come alongside, like that grief process is real, and so you do offer education on that, and you do tell your story in hopes that it would help others. So I'm going to have the links to where to contact you in this segment, and so you'll be able to connect with her there. But
That would be great.
thank you so much. Thank you. I just feel like I want to talk some more, but we will just sign off today and say, Shirley, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your heart and being vulnerable. And I am so encouraged by you and your strength, and I'm so glad that God brought you into my life.
I am too.
Because the best is yet to come, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Another segment of Contagious Courage with Bien King. And I'm signing off today by saying yet again, not to us, O Lord, not to us, but to you and your name goes all the honor and glory for your unfailing love and faithfulness. Psalms 115 and 1. Thank you so much for tuning in.